Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. I hope that you are all good. Now in today's video I have a small Born Pretty haul, which is mainly a couple of stamping plates, but they've also sent me two of their gel polishes as well. And then I thought I would do a design using one of the stamping plates and leave it in real time so we can go through the steps and I can share some hints and tricks and how I stamp with you all. And I know that stamping is very popular. I get lots of questions on one of my previous stamping videos, so I thought it'd be good to do a more updated version. Let's take a look at the stamping plates. So this one is the one that I'm actually going to be using in today's video. This is the Fashion Power L005 plate. And then I also have the Fashion Power L003 plate. So these two plates would probably work quite well together. Now I absolutely love this plate, but when I first looked at it I kind of was a bit thrown of what kind of design I would do with it. But since doing this video I do actually have a couple of designs in mind, so please do keep an eye out on my channel as I will have another video coming up soon using this plate and the other plate, because I do only use the one in this particular video today. But it has some really cool images on there. I especially love the cactuses and the leaves. So the third plate I have is the Geometry L005 plate. This one's quite similar, I feel, to the first plate, as in it's got quite a lot of abstract designs on here, but this one has quite a few larger ones as well, which I do especially like because I often do long nails and I sometimes find it tricky to find images that match onto long nails. So I'm glad this one has a few larger images too. And I just popped these two plates side by side because I wanted to show you guys what I meant by they're quite similar. I think you could pair these two plates up really well together. Now Born Pretty did also include two of their gel polishes, so I thought I would show them to you. Now I took these out of the packaging and the bottles themselves aren't labelled, so I hope I have these the right way round. But this one is number 8 and I think it's called Down River, and it's a gorgeous silver with a hint of pink. And then the second one is number 12. And that is called Knitted Lace, and it's very similar with the silver base, but it has a slight blue colour shift. You'll see them a little bit better when we swatch them. So this is the first one with the pink colour shift. I will try to get links for both of these products so I can link them directly below along with all of the stamping plates as well. So I'm going to apply one coat of this. As you can see, it's quite sheer. And then I'm going to pop it in to cure for 60 seconds and come in over the top with a second coat. The second coat did make it pop a little bit more. But with these kind of gel polishes, I usually pop them over a white base and I quite like the effect that it gives off. So this was the first one, which has the slightly pink colour shift to it. And then the second one, which I'm pretty sure is called Knitted Lace, has that blue effect to it. So you can kind of see this again on the first coat, but it is a little bit sheer. It's quite cool though. It gives off a kind of glassy effect. And if you wanted to go for that style, I think it would look really pretty, especially on a long set of nails. So I cured that first coat and then I'm going to come in and do the second coat of colour. Again, this makes it pop that little bit more. And I loved this one because I quite liked the fact that it had the blue colour shift to it. I feel as though this would look quite pretty if you were using it for nail art as well. I popped them side by side, and once they were next to each other you could quite notice the difference in them. Now let's jump on to the stamping. So I'm working on my Glamerliz practice hand and I'm going to come in and apply my first coat of colour. I'm using KIki London's Oh Vanilla because I love this colour if I want a nice neutral nude base. And when I see the stamping plate that I'm going to use, I had a design in mind and I felt as though this colour would work perfect as a background. So I've done that first coat of colour on all 4 nails, popped them into cure for 30 seconds, and then I'm coming in and applying the second coat of colour, making sure it all looks nice and even. I then popped those in to cure, and now I'm going to pop a matte top coat over the top. Now you don't have to use a matte top coat necessarily, but I personally find it easier to top coat over a matte surface. If you don't want to use a matte top coat, you could also use a glossy one, but I do advise using a top coat because then if you make any mistakes with your stamping, you're able to wipe that off without it affecting your gel polish base. Now for the design, I'm using the L005 plate with the Nicole Diary ND12 stamping polish. I'm also using their black stamping polish, which is ND02. And as well as that, I'm using their white stamping polish, which is just labelled 01. Now all of these I have picked up from the Born Pretty store, but I will try and find links and pop them all below. I'm also using a Born Pretty stamping polish. This one is called In Fire and it is one of my favourite gold stamping polishes. The stamper I'm going to use today is the Clear Jelly Stamper Big Bling. I love jelly style stampers. I find them the easiest type of stamper to stamp with. You are also going to need a scraper, so I have one of the Born Pretty ones here. Now to clean my scraper, I like to use one of these face sponges with some acetone. So I have that just out of shot usually when I'm stamping, but it comes in handy to wipe my scraper directly on. And I use a lint roller to clean off my stamper head. And then I also use some lint-free pads and acetone for wiping off my stamping plate. So I like to have everything that I'm going to be using for stamping to hand. I find that if I have it nice and close, I can speed through doing my designs and not waste any time reaching around or looking for things. So I highly recommend just making sure you have all of your polishes laid out along with anything else that you might need. Now, although this is a new stamping plate, I did just wipe over it with some acetone before starting just to make sure it was nice and clean. Then I'm coming in with the white stamping polish, placing a generous amount and scraping off the excess, rolling my stamper across, and as you can see, that picked up nice and easily. I don't apply too much pressure when I'm rolling that stamper across. It's quite like a quick flick of the wrist. And then when it comes to pressing it down, I'm pressing it down quite firmly, and I like to wriggle from side to side and backwards and forwards. If you feel as though the image hasn't fully transferred to the nail, just go back in and give it a little wriggle, and then you can see I really gently peel back my stamper, and that has transferred absolutely beautifully. So I knew when I was doing this design that I wanted one of the whites, or I wanted one of the abstract designs down in white. So that's why I went for that. And then I'm going to come over the top with a face, and we're going to do a little bit of reverse colour stamping as well. Before moving on to doing my next image, I always thoroughly clean my stamping plate. You will find that if you get any excess polish onto the image, it won't pick up correctly. So always give it a good clean with some acetone and a lint-free pad. Now for the facial part of the design, I'm taking the black stamping polish because I felt as though this would pop best against the coloured background. I'm applying that to the entire image, scraping across gently, and then a quick flick of the wrist and it picks up that image again perfectly. Now I'm then going to take some of the Nicole Diary green stamping polish and an old nail art brush, and I'm just going to colour in the leaves. So I'm doing this directly on top of that stamper, as you can see, being really careful to stay in the black lines that we've picked up on that image. Now when I'm doing reverse stamping, I like to use either a cheap or old nail art brush to apply the stamping polish, because stamping polish dries really quickly and I find it can clog your brushes, and repeatedly cleaning your brushes with acetone dries them out a little bit. So I just pick up a couple of these cheap sort of nail art brushes from eBay or AliExpress, and they are perfect for this kind of work. Just making sure that there's enough polish on there. I probably did apply a little bit too much if I'm honest, but I just wanted to make sure that there was a nice coat of colour. And then I'm going to take my lint roller and remove any of that excess image that I picked up before. Now, although I said when you're doing stamping, you need to work quite quick, once you've got that image on your stamper, you can slow down a little bit and take your time with things like colouring parts in. But then if I have taken my time when the image is on my stamper, I spend a little bit more time when it comes to pressing it down. So you'll see when I press this down onto the nail, I'm really wriggling it backwards and forwards, side to side, making sure it's pressed down nice and firmly, just because it has spent a little bit longer stuck onto your stamper head. So it might take a little bit more pressure to apply onto the nail. And then I very gently roll that stamper back so that none of the image stays stuck to the stamper. If you do find you have any small parts of your image sticking up, you can very gently stick them down. And I loved how that now turned out. So I'm going to do a very similar design again on the ring finger. So again, I'm applying a generous amount of stamping polish. You don't want to be shy with your stamping polish. You want to make sure that it really fills the area on the image, especially with these large full coverage images like this one we've picked up here. You want to make sure that that gel polish really gets into the grooves of the stamping plate. So kind of maybe if you're struggling picking up an image or you're finding that it's not fully covered, make sure you're applying enough stamping polish. And also when you're scraping off, I sort of scrape at a 45-degree angle, making sure that I'm not digging too much into the grooves of the stamping plate. That's why one of the reasons I love the Born Pretty scrapers, because I don't find them too hard. So again, I've pressed that down and it is stamped absolutely perfectly. Since using a clear jelly stamper, whether it be the CJS one or my Beauty Big Bang one, I've also got a Born Pretty one, I've not had any problems with stamping. So if you haven't give the clear jelly style stampers a go, I would highly recommend giving them a try. Now for the second facial image, I'm going to use this one up here. It's very similar to the first one where you've got a outline of a face and some leaves. Again, I'm going to use the Nicole Diary black stamping polish. I kind of feel as though black just pops nicely. It kind of worked, especially for an outline. If you're new to stamping, I would highly recommend the first two colours of stamping polish you pick up is a black and a white. I know it's kind of quite easy to get wowed by all of the different colours, but as someone who was new to stamping polish, I found black and white the easiest to work with when I first started out. Especially black, because it's so highly pigmented, I find that it's quite easy to use. So now I've picked up that image. Again, this is all in real time, by the way, so this is how fast or how slow I'm working. I slow down a little bit. Now I've picked up the image and I'm just taking that green stamping polish, and again I'm just going to colour in the leaves. You could go all out with reverse stamping and colour in, use a few different colours and colour in more of the image if you wanted to. I quite liked leaving the face with just the black outline. Again though, I'm making sure to colour in the leaves with a generous amount of stamping polish, because if there is any gaps, you are going to notice it when you stamp your image down, and you want to make sure the layer is thick enough as well that it transfers nicely onto the nail. Another one of the reasons why I find these style stampers a must-have is because how easy it makes it for placing down your image. You're able to see right through your stamper, and it just makes it effortless when it comes to placing down your designs. As you can see, I'm really wriggling that around. I'm going backwards and forwards. You can kind of tell if you go to lift off and the image still sticks to your stamper head that it's not ready. So then I will come back in and just wriggle it around a little bit more backwards and forwards before pulling off. Now this design did slightly go off the nail, which doesn't matter, that's fine. We can clean off any of that excess stamping polish with some acetone. It is usually a lot easier, to be honest though, to clean off any of your excess polish after you have top coated, because then you don't have to worry about smudging your design. I come in here and just cleaned it off now anyway, but usually if I was working on myself, I would just finish all of my stamping, top coat, and then come in and clean off with some acetone. I'm going to speed through and do the last two nails. I'm going to do quite a simple design on them. So I'm picking up a white image to act as the background for the leaves, which I'm going to do in the gold. Now again, when I'm scraping off that stamping polish excess, I'm making sure to be quite light with my scraper. Like I said, try not to apply too much pressure, because if you're too hard on your scraper, you're going to find that you're going to scrape off more of the excess than you want to. Now you'll see here, when I apply my stamping polish, I like to cover the entire image. I know some people like to apply the stamping polish to half of the image and then scrape the excess into the rest of the image, but I personally find I get a much cleaner, sharper image if I apply my stamping polish to the entire image. So one of the things I would say about stamping polish is, although it's great to watch videos and see how everyone else does it, play around and find which techniques work best for you. Now, I personally find the lint roller the easiest way to clean off any excess polish from my stamper head. But if you don't have one of those or you don't want to use one of those, you can also use the scraper, or lots of people use their nail as well. So you can just use the side of your nail to take off the excess image. However, if you want to clean the entire part of your stamper, that's when I find the lint roller easiest. You can also use sticky tape as well, so you can wrap some sticky tape around your fingers and use that just to press on the surface of your stamper. You always need to be really gentle though with anything you do to the jelly stamper heads, because they can puncture quite easily. Now, if you find your stamper head is looking quite dull, you can also wash these in warm soapy water, but again, be really careful and really gentle with them. And I personally, if I do that, I like to leave them to air dry. Now, this is what the finished design looked like. I absolutely loved these. I definitely feel as though this is going to be a stamping plate I'm going to reach for a lot. We do need to seal the stamping in, so I'm going to come in with my KIki London top coat, and when I'm working over stamping, I like to just float a nice even layer of top coat on, making sure it covers the entire nail, and then I'll pop these in to cure for 60 seconds. If I'm doing any stamping on myself, or if I was going to do it on a client, I would always double top coat, because I just find that seals it in a lot better. Now, another thing I wanted to say is when it comes to top coating over stamping, I personally prefer to use a top coat that leaves a tacky layer that you need to cleanse off, because I find if I use one of those style top coats, I don't get any pitting or separating, and I especially love this one that I've used today from KIki London. So this is what the finished nails looked like. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you was able to pick up some tips and tricks. If you do have any questions, please pop them below and I will be happy to help. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I shall see you all again in the next one. Lots of love. Bye bye.